Hey everyone, I'm Lucy, your host for Start the Conversation, a series dedicated to shining a light on building the future of your community with neurodiversity in mind. Each episode will bring you conversations with inspiring individuals who are making a significant impact in their fields, from neurodiversity in sports to creating inclusive work environments. Our aim is to educate, inspire, and empower our listeners to make a difference. So sit back, relax, and join us as we start the conversation. Hey, welcome. It's Lucy here from Inclusive Change. And today I'm talking about the future of work. You know what we talk about in Inclusive Change. It's all about building the future of work with neurodiversity in mind. And today I've got a guest with me. My guest is Anne Wilkinson. Welcome.
Thank you, Lucy, and thanks for the opportunity to come and have a chat with you.
I cannot wait to get into a conversation together. We've been chatting behind the scenes about what you do and where the future of work might be leading, let's just say. So let's just get started and get stuck in. Anne, tell me a little bit about you and what you do in your business.
I'm an executive leadership coach, also do career coaching and business coaching, but primarily I work with leaders in business. And that has a multitude, obviously multifaceted, because I celebrate my 25th year in business.
Wow.
I've managed to survive so many recessions, Brexit, in fact, all sorts of things along the way, pandemic. So it feels a bit like an achievement, but essentially I support executives, CEOs, directors, leaders in business, and senior managers in a number of different ways, sometimes with their career development, their strategic direction, and basically a strategic sounding board for them.
What led you to get into that world? Why 25 years ago did you take that step?
Yeah, great question, isn't it? Well, at the time, I have to say, I'd had a very successful leadership career myself in large organizations and in IT and transformational change in global organizations. And the short story is I was in a situation where I was a senior leader. I had a new senior leader manager that came in, the first woman I ever worked for. And let's just say it changed a lot for me and brought a 15-year successful career to a grinding halt within 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So I experienced what I think a lot of people do, corporate bullying, narcissistic behavior. Never thought about it would happen to me. And this is obviously 25, 26 years ago. And so I swore that I'd never go back into corporate world again, which in fact, was ridiculous really, because I love the corporate world. It made me who I was, but I did then set out on my own and thought, I don't want to work for anybody else again. And so I started my first business in 2000 and 2001. And I became an entrepreneur initially.
Scary, isn't it?
A number of 3 or 4 different businesses.
Yeah.
Only one survived. And I went on a journey, and I absolutely loved the dynamic nature of small businesses. And it took me into so many different, I had to learn, I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know all the, VAT returns and the bookkeeping stuff, etc. But 25 years later, I mean, it's like, for me, it's a life MBA on steroids, So, it's been an incredible journey. I'm now truly, truly grateful that what happened to me, which was heart-wrenching at the time, was probably the best thing that could have ever happened. So here I am talking to you.
I would say I have similar experiences in my life where at the time they seem absolutely awful, terrible experiences. But when you look back, you go, actually, that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. And it leads us to those the place that we are now, with lots of experience and being able to talk about things in a really, really positive way, rather than thinking about it really negative. Okay. So tell me, what is your business called? Remind me.
Well, I have a limited company, which is called Executive Playground.
Yep.
But I tend to now, because of personal branding in the way of the world, I go by Anne Wilkinson Coaching and Consultancy Solutions. So that's usually where you'll see my brand.
I know which one kind of is easier for me to remember, and Wilson, obviously,
Yeah.
but I do like Executive Playground. I like this.
I know that was the formation of my third limited company, actually, way back when. And at the time, it was formed with a beautiful human being called Nikki Highmore Sims, who became my business partner. We launched it together, and it was very much about providing. Bearing in mind, this was 2001 when we established it. It was about making a positive difference, but it was about going back into the organizations that we both come from. We both got very different backgrounds, but actually creating that creative, explorative, innovative space where leaders could explore safely different ways of leading, solving their challenges, etc. And hence, Executive Playground was born, really, a safe place for senior leaders to explore different ways of leading, solve different business challenges. And, that was the story. So, and we had some great success in the first 3 years. Unfortunately, Nikki got breast cancer in 2005. She was only 43.
Wow.
And she went through, quite a journey with that. And we lost her in, I think it was 2006. I think it was 2006. And that was, you can imagine, she's my business partner. She was my coach, best coach I could work for as well. Truly inspirational and an amazing creative. She's an author, published author as well. There's a book still out there, I think, called How to Create Fantastic Workshops or something like that.
Love it.
And I helped her on that journey with that, but she was amazing, creative. So that's how it started.
Yep.
And I've had a very kind of mixed career. I've worked with hundreds of companies, hundreds of clients individually as well. At the time that I left the corporate world, coaching was very new. I'm a trained coach. I trained with Results Coaching Systems and Coach You in America, one based in Australia, one American. But I trained in London, and I took 2 years out. Continued on to specialize in to qualify in neuro-linguistic programming, and then went on to specialize in advanced influencing skills field of NLP, which I still use to this day. So I use the profiling tools that I learned way back when, because it's all about transformative change, and that's what NLP. Yeah,
that's something you and I have talked about, and I've kind of picked up from you. Is you're about creating transformations for people.
I am. I'm obviously, as a coach, I don't do anything. I provide the tools. I provide the ground, the conversations to enable change to happen. And of course, one of the core ethoses of coaching is about that. Everybody actually, at some level, knows what the right solutions are, but they're not just consciously aware for them. So, yes, I bring obviously the tools, the conversations, the challenge as well. And the information and the skills, but I just absolutely love going on that journey with my clients and seeing them transform and kind of wake up to themselves. Really, that's my biggest joy, and that's why the relationship with coaching, 25 years, is the longest relationship I've ever had. And I still. Even now, I turned 70 in May this year, and it's a bit weird to think that I still genuinely feel so in love with what I do and my clients that I work with. And I think it's honestly kept me so young and alive and current. So I can't thank my profession and what happened to me along the way and all my clients over the years enough, really.
I think that's a fantastic statement. I think that's a fantastic place to be able to say, at the age that you said that you are, 70, Anne, none of us believe that. If you're listening, you won't see Anne, but if you're watching, you're probably thinking, nah. But we're often conditioned to think that by our 60s, we're going to start thinking about retirement. In the UK, it was 66 and we're thinking about retirement. But actually, that you're nowhere near. That's just you're still there, and you want to continue, and you are curious and learning and just not stopping.
I know it's a bit weird, really, because I come from a generation, obviously, of women that were not necessarily, certainly weren't professional. We didn't go to university, neither did I. But it's not just 60s, Lucy. I mean, I'm very active, less than I post, but more that I observe. I see lots of, very talented females that even in their 40s or 50s are saying, is it over for me? Is it too late to change, etc.? And I'm kind of screaming down the laptop, as it were. No, absolutely not. And
Absolutely not.
I found some amazing, inspiring women on TikTok, right? And they're knocking it into the park. They're in their 70s, they're in their 80s. I found, women and men, at these later ages, and they're absolutely knocking it into the park on TikTok. So I haven't got to TikTok yet, but that's on the plan for 2026, right?
That's amazing. Right. Bear with me a moment. So this leads me on to our next question, Anne. What's your perspective of leadership and the future of work?
It's a question that goes right to the heart of my passion, Lucy, and thanks for the opportunity for this chat. I think the future of work, I think my biggest concern is I know that as humans we're walking around with a brain that's evolved over the last, 100 years, 100,000 years, not 100 years, 100,000 years. And yet, we are now in the middle and coping with and actively developing like almost godlike technology when it comes to AI. And I come from a background where, there was no computers, there was no internet when I first started in my corporate career, to this incredible, incredible world where everything, is
in the palm of our hand, isn't it?
Incredible. It's a much more complex world that we live in. It's a much more, going back to your expertise, neurodivergent world as well. There's never been as much complexity, there's never been as much stress, there's never been as much turmoil, there's never been as much division. And all of this, I think, is finding its way into the workplace. And we've got a very diverse workplace in the sense of I populate a world of incredible entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs that come from millennials, Gen Z, Gen Z, etc. And also I'm working with more senior, more mature leaders that may be in their 50s and 60s in the large corporate world who have absolutely, frankly, little idea of the other world that I populate. And yet this youth and younger managers and younger people are coming into the workplace, and these worlds are colliding. And to some degree, I think, the pandemic, COVID, and the whole disruption that it caused and the whole reflection of what really is important, I think it kind of, a lot of it's in its current phase kind of started there. There was this clash of, control and command, or command and control, versus, look, as long as I do the job, why can't I work from home? Why can't I have that flexibility? And I think those struggles of culture are still happening. And then now there's AI. You're on LinkedIn, you're probably seeing for yourself increasing posts about people being let go, organizations letting people go, restructuring on now large numbers as AI comes in and is seen as a cost efficient and a more efficient way of managing roles, and therefore not as many managers or senior leaders are needed. And this is a disruption that's only going to continue. And I guess my biggest concern is, we have a large number of people that are feeling fragmented in life, feeling, disconnected in their work, whilst, and I kind of go, what's happening to the leadership? How are the leaders of either the small companies, the SMEs, as well as the corporates, how are they staying in touch, with what's happening in the world and their ability to inspire and lead and organize and support and show compassion for what's going on in the world when the chances are that they're struggling themselves, And so I come from from this place today, talking to you about, it's purely to have the discussion. Like, is everybody educating themselves in terms of what's needed in the coming like 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Because the scale of change is phenomenal. And I know from my client base, the diversity of different challenges that are coming through, from neurodivergent young managers that are being misunderstood, as well as very mature leaders who feel that, they've just got to hang on in there until they get their package, and then what happens to them? And by the way, they're only 55. The chances are they might live forever. Do you know what I mean? But they might live for another 30 years.
Yeah.
I think it's over because they've been in that same corporate role and job for, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years or something. And actually, that is a tragedy waiting to happen, I think, from society perspective. And I really care about that. So I honestly think there's a space in the middle for discussion, for exploration, for the playground to say, how do we bring these ideas and challenges together from these different worlds into the organization to sit down and talk about the challenges and concerns that people have as people, let alone leaders and employees. And that's really where, goes all the way back to executive playground, really the thinking behind it, the philosophy behind it. But actually, I think that conversations like this are needed more than any other time in my career. So I'm grateful that it's the discussion that I want to stimulate, and the thinking. Not everybody has a chance to go and do an MBA at Cranfield or any other amazing university. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on this are, Lucy, but are they having these conversations in the campuses, in the universities about this diversity, or are they still using the same kind of academic textbook version of what they think business is, what's really happening within the walls of business? What's your view on that?
I can answer that from a personal perspective. So I have just started a level 7 apprenticeship as a senior leader. So I'm at Exeter University. It's all online. There are hundreds of us doing it. There's hundreds of us in this cohort. And I've just started on the first year. And the first thing we're looking at is leadership of self and people. And so there's a ton of reading out there. There's lots of things that I've started with masterclasses and things. And I do think, yes, they are talking about this. Yes, they are talking about the context in which we're leading. But one of the things I've started to do is some of the reading, I'd say anything pre-2018, I am going to say I am reading it through a lens of today and thinking, does that fit? Is that right for today? Because we've had a whole load of movements with things like George Floyd and Me Too and Black Lives Matters. We've now got, and I personally, and you've asked me what I think, so here goes. I personally think that the two biggest conversations that we need to have, and the two biggest impacts on our world of work and leadership, are understanding neurodiversity. That's why I run my business. That's why I talk about what I do all day long to anybody that will listen. So it's about understanding how we all have very diverse minds. Some people will need different ways of processing. Some people have different ways of processing the world and information, and will need reasonable adjustments and support in order to thrive in the workplace. But generally, we're all coping with a different world, and our brains weren't all set up to work in this way. However, go back to that question about whether the leadership courses, the MBAs are talking about this stuff. Yes, they are.
That's good to hear.
But everything, like I say, that I'm reading through a lens of today. And so there's a few books that I've read already. Things like, and I've always dipped into this one, Patrick Lencioni, the 5 Traits of Dysfunctional Teams. It's a really short book. It's a quick read, but it was written at a time when we weren't really thinking about neurodivergence. We weren't thinking about difference. And actually, some of it I read and I go, ooh, not sure that would work in today, in the way I lead, in the way that I think about leadership. And so some of it has to modernize and actually come up. But there are some fantastic books out there, some fantastic new ones that I'm reading. The Promises of Giants is one that I'll recommend to you by John Amici. Absolutely
Okay.
fantastic. Yeah. And even better if you get it on Audible and you listen to it, or you get it on an audiobook and you listen to it, because his voice is fabulous. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. Yeah.
What
So,
about, Lucy, what about smaller businesses? I mean, SMEs make up, the 80%
oh,
of our
goodness.
economy
Yeah. Yeah.
and the 80% of our workforce, roughly speaking. And
Mm-hmm.
so, the founders, the owners, I mean, SMEs in the formal sense are like up to 50 million. They're not from startups all the way through that, mid-sized SME and the large ones. They are significant. And actually the journey towards that, is not necessarily going to encompass going to university or going on a master's or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, what do you see when you're working with clients in smaller business? How do you see? I mean, we're obviously talking two subjects here converging in a leadership context: AI and neurodivergence. Are you seeing that the owners, the leaders of businesses generally are seeking out the development, the training, the understanding, the wanting to understand, and a receptiveness, if you like, to develop their leadership in accordance with the way that the world is changing? Do you see that, or do you share my concerns?
I think the ones I meet, yes, because obviously they're
Yeah.
coming to us for training.
Yes, that's true. Self-selecting, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it quite often depends what industry and what perspective they have. One of the things I'm seeing, so I've recently moved to Devon, and I think the economic landscape and SMEs and the way in which people run businesses and operate down here is a little bit different to the way it was in Bristol, where I was before. And I think there's a real conflict between survival in a business right now, and actually it's really hard to survive in a business. If
Yeah.
you're an entrepreneur and you set up a business, we should be in it to make a profit, but sometimes we feel that isn't okay, or we're being small business are being battered, and we're about to see new stuff come out in the UK with employment rights and employment law, which will again increase costs and will change the way that we have to work. And so I think a lot of small business owners are sometimes we're in a rabbit wheel, a hamster wheel, and we're trying to do the best that we can. We're trying to bring team members up. We're trying to lead people. We're trying to make money. We're trying to get new customers. We're trying to do everything. And actually, we haven't got the time to invest in ourselves. We haven't got the time to go to do a university course. One of the things I do see a lot of, and it is a bit of a postcode lottery, are things like boot camps. So where local authorities or local skills and local skills improvement plans are in place, we will see boot camps or training or short courses that I would say leaders in SMEs, get yourself on those, because they will start opening up those conversations that we're just talking about. Because part of that local skills improvement plan in different areas in the UK, two of the biggest challenges are digitization, so digital skills, and leadership. Those are the two biggest things. And actually yesterday I had a conversation with somebody in charge of the local skills improvement plan, the LSIP in Devon, and those were the two things that came top of the list: digitization and digital skills, and leadership. And that's going to be across the board.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear, because obviously I think the impact of digitalization and AI increasingly, because obviously we've been digital for a while, but it's the rapid development of AI and its potential to take knowledge and replace human intervention as well, is having the effect already of moving where the knowledge, the expertise is, often away from subject matter experts who are humans, often into maybe a bot, or a version of a service that's highly digitalized.
Mm.
So where the knowledge base is shifting, that has an impact on where the expertise is perceived. Traditionally, obviously, leaders were expected to be experts in the subject that they led.
Mm.
But in today's world, they may be a leader to an increasingly large number of people who know more than them, right? And
Oh, yeah.
understand more than them. So how do you make good strategic decisions and actually take the forward long-term strategic view safely if you don't actually understand, or importantly, have the right engaging conversations with actually the people that are executing or influencing digital or AI in a way that a senior leader doesn't actually understand. So there's got to be a huge amount of trust, that the people that are the way that technology is emerging and being applied is actually good for business. And as a leader, you've got that overarching responsibility for the sustainability and the safety and governance of a business. But actually, the underbelly of it is changing vastly. And the power in inverted commas comes in a different form. It comes in that execution, in those digital skills,
Mm.
in a different layer of the business.
And part of that, we will see the governance, we see
Yeah,
data protection, information
yeah,
security, what's happening with our data and information. And for me, one of the things I talk about are how we lead in the age of AI. One of my um, one of the things I really get into are the people, the impact on people through change and bringing in AI. Yes, you've got all this governance stuff. You've got a load of stuff about, can we afford it? Have we got the right servers? Where is our information being held? All of that kind of stuff, as well as how are the processes and systems being implemented and what we're doing, and how does it impact our customers, our employees, our stakeholders. And leaders have to make sense of all of this and make decisions for the strategic future of their companies. That
yeah.
must be that's a challenge. I think so. One of the questions I had for you was, what do you see the key challenges for 2026 are? Mine is going to be that kind of nutshell of what I just described. I think that for me is one of the big challenges, that leaders need to be able to make strategic decisions based on information that they might not know enough about. And what do you
Absolutely.
think they're going to be? What do you think that challenge is going to be in 2026?
Well, I think it is a convergence of different types of challenges, really, rather than just one. But I think, I mean, if you just take, for instance, recruiting the right people into your organization, depending on what they come with, their value set, for instance, the experience and skills that they have, you'll
Mm.
have a perception of your business. Maybe in the HR, it's filtered by the HR, but the direction of the business and the kind of skills and type of people that you want in there, you're going to be obviously attracting neurodivergent and
Mhm.
and AI savvy
People who
potential
get this stuff.
employees, and
Yeah.
actually the decisions that you make about, can we cope with, what does having a workforce, for instance, with it that contains like people with autism, they have ADHD, and
Mhm.
other, you'll be the expert on this, neurodivergent. The perception with so much radical change could be, I don't know, it could be, bias against
Mm.
bringing somebody in that, because their gifts will not be perceived. It'll be more like a problem to be managed than gifts to actually bring into the organization. And the same with AI savvy employees, or in fact, people that are not understanding, leaders that don't understand AI. What happens with people in leadership positions that are no longer current, but then the new positions of the future will be looking for new leaders coming in with AI skills and an AI understanding. Well, if they're not educated in AI, if they're not using AI, if they're not at the forefront, then what's going to happen to their own employability?
Mm.
So I think, and right from the get-go, the value sets, I mean, certainly from my perspective, I see in the younger clients that I have that are coming up, that their values are different. They're looking to make a difference. They're looking to make a positive difference. They want to do work that has,
Oh,
to
yes.
meaningful change
Yeah.
as well, not just make a profit. So that is a bit of a cultural, not just generational, but driven by different generations as well. So that's converging. But I think the biggest challenge, if I were to sum that all up, is making sure that as a leader, you actually create space and time to have these big conversations with your team, but not just your team, because that's what leaders do. They talk to their team. Actually, to have, and the bigger version might be town halls, but smaller spaces where people from different departments and different levels can come together around these big subjects about what's really going on and what do we really need to compete at the highest level in this vastly changing world. Because I think, the alternative is you remain stagnant and then you disappear, or you evolve. And then for me, my subject is very much about the evolution of leadership and why it needs to be evolved in an AI-driven and increasingly diverse world. So I think staying on top of that and putting time in the leadership diary to have these discussions is going to be increasingly important if you're not already doing it.
I would absolutely concur with you there. Absolutely concur. And if you need anybody to facilitate, Anne, you and I are both available to help.
You are my go-to. You are my
conversations.
go-to. You are my go-to buddy on that one. You can take it for granted.
Same
Lucy.
here.
It'd be great, to develop something with you along those lines.
Oh, fantastic. Right. Okay. We've talked a lot about leadership. We've talked a lot about the challenges. What are you doing? So what's happening in your business right now, and how are you developing your services to address these challenges or to support leaders to face those challenges?
Well, two things really. First of all, I am one of the people that I see AI as a huge opportunity for people like me. Effectively, I'm a solopreneur, really. I don't have a team anymore, and I don't have a big business. I am a small business. And what is wonderful for me is I've been delving and working with AI probably for the last 2 years and testing it and understanding its capability in my business. But it's helped me rapidly evolve my offering, my programs, because it means I can offer a lot more value, because I can work a lot more quickly in terms of structuring my thought process. All my ideas that go into anything that is AI driven are my ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the speed with which I can create programs, innovative programs and innovative conversations, and add value is phenomenal. So I'm continuing to develop and work with AI to offer the highest value to my clients. That's one thing. But the biggest, I think, thing for me in 2026, which is how we met, is I'm launching a new service, I suppose, which is called Sprint Central. I love doing challenges, short dynamic sprints. I used to be a sprinter. I walk fast. I'm a Gemini. I talk fast, all that kind of stuff. And I love the opportunity with Sprint Central, where I am creating, short dynamic, time-bound, impactful sprints where I can, I suppose to some degree, it's not just a legacy piece, but it's a way of me evolving how I provide value, opportunity, learning at speed. And I'll be tackling a range of different subjects of interest. For instance, my first sprint, which you're supporting me on, is New Start, New You. We're hoping to launch that in January, February. And that's really to help that whole mindset around, if you're facing a new role, a new chapter in your life, what are the kind of things that you could be doing daily, small bite-sized things daily, to create those great habits, and give you those tangible results day by day. So, but in a fun, dynamic and interesting way, using the tools that we've been talking about, AI, etc. So there's a platform that we're using, obviously Techmatics, to do that, to deliver that. So that's my big one for 2026. Frankly, it's untested, it's in beta, etc. But I'm really excited by creating maybe community sprints and, bringing sprints together in person to work on sprints and challenges, as well as digitally as well. So that's my big excitement. I don't know if it's going to work, quite frankly, but I'm
I
going to
think
have,
you can. I think you
have a
will.
lot of fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun trying and evolving it.
I think fun is a very important part about what we do, particularly as entrepreneurs, because there are some things that are pretty hard at the moment, and fun and joy has to be a big part about our life. So that's brilliant to start off with. And secondly, I think the neuroscience, the bit behind this, is that as humans, we like habits. As humans, developing habits. Actually, it's proven, if we do stuff on a daily basis and we do small and often, we are going to change our habits. We are going to achieve. And I mean, we're recording this in January, and I think one of the last week was like F It Friday or something like that, where we start our New Year's resolutions on the 1st of January, but by the second Friday in January, we're like, yeah, nah, we're not that bothered we're not going to do that anymore. So things like a sprint, is that the kind of principle behind it?
It is. And in fact, what I did, and I used AI to do this, I actually got my own AI digital dream team, where I have brought together effectively ChatGPT to create this dream team, which is called the Apex Council. And when I want to test an idea, Adam Clear, Stephen Bartlett, Seth Godin, I've got about 8 of them, and I call a meeting of the council and I say, this is my idea, right? This is what I want to do. This is the impact I want to have. Can I please have all of your perspectives? And then Alex Hormozy is an example. So they've all got this different perspective. And so I ratify my idea using ChatGPT and the expertise of these amazing people in the world that are changing the world.
Wow.
And it helps me kind of, I don't accept everything that it says, obviously, but sometimes I kind of go, oh, I wish I'd either known that, or I wish I'd thought of it. So I think from my perspective, that's absolutely what it's about. It's more than the sum of its parts, really. And as you say, I don't know about you, Lucy. Are you good at consistency, at daily
No, not
habits?
all the time. No.
I'm rubbish. I think that's why I'm a coach, because every client, because I work bespoke, every client is unique, right? And I love the journey of exploring and getting to know them. And so I have this changing, no day is the same, no client's the same. And I'm free. I'm free to create and to do whatever I want. So when it comes to habits, daily habits, I struggle with that. But if I can create sprints in a fun and innovative way that are so highly relevant and impactful for what's going on in people's minds, I think it could be a runner. I think it could be a winner.
You're right. I think you're right. I am going to challenge you on one thing, though.
Do, please.
You know all those names that you reeled off?
Yeah.
What do they have in common? They were all men.
Oh, Sarah Cordener's in there as well.
Thank
you. Sarah Cordener, our lovely Sarah from the founder of Techmatics. Yeah. It is interesting though. Listen, on that subject though, on the subject of that, do you remember you and I was inspired by you. You put a post on LinkedIn just recently, right, where you said, based on everything you know about me, give me a picture of me. And it was a guy.
It was a guy? Yeah.
And so I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. And you did it?
I did the same. And I was a guy. And I've been using ChatGPT for 2 years, right? It knows everything about me. It definitely knows that I'm a woman. But not only I was a guy, I mean, he was very nice.
Yeah, tattoos all up his arms.
Tattoos. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've promised myself a tattoo for many years, but maybe just something small and discreet. But he looked more like David Beckham's kind of level of tattoos. And I thought, where does that come from? And actually, when we both tested it, we both got the same. Oh, that's my bad, says ChatGPT. Yeah. I made these assumptions. And I think, why would you do that? Right? Why would you do that? And what other assumptions are you making? Now, a lot of the stuff that I put into ChatGPT, and I tend to use that and have done for like 2.5 years, tends to be ChatGPT, but they're my ideas, right? And I will not give the game away. You'll never see an avatar of me. I'll never clone my voice. there is a line. It's just structuring my thoughts and ideas and my creativity. But I just wonder, from your perspective, Lucy, and your expertise in neurodiversity and AI, do you think that AI is an advantage or disadvantage to the neurodivergent community? How do you see that?
I think there's two ways of looking at it. I think assistive tech and
Assistive tech,
using AI to help with grammar, with writing, with communication tools, absolutely brilliant. Even organizing your thoughts, helping us to prioritize our work. So many things that it can help neurodivergent staff and employees with, or even parents, and young adults.
and leaders, and their leaders as well.
Absolutely. In so many ways, it can help us. However, there is an element for me where we need to think about how AI and digital change impacts those people who feel things first. And neurodivergent people, so somebody who might be autistic or ADHD, will probably notice the burnout, the extra cognitive load of learning new stuff, of change, before anybody else. And some of that comes because they've already created workarounds in their job. They've already created little shortcuts that they've been working with. And when we come in as a change leader and we go, we're going to change this, and this is going to be new, it's going to be fabulous, we haven't thought about what's going to break for our people. And so if you're neurodivergent and you are experiencing change, or you're a leader who's neurodivergent as well, we may need to think a little bit differently about how we manage and implement digital and technological change in our organizations. But one of the things I'm going to say, Anne, always human first. We have to think about human first. That doesn't cut it when we're talking about stakeholders and we want to save money and we want to be at the forefront of things. But as much as we can, human first, please.
Yeah. Well, business exists. We live in a capitalist society to make a profit.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't need to be a dehumanized version of that. There are some brilliant companies that are in the world that that manage to do both really, really well. Yeah. And I think just on that final point, really, I think we undervalue, if you like, the gifts that we have as humans, because we're not just things. We are sensory beings, and a lot of what happens when we come together with people, it's an exchange of energy. It's not just an exchange of information. And without that ability, we pick things up, we sense things, as you say. And the neurodivergent community probably are that early warning system.
Oh, they're definitely the canaries in the coal mine. A lot of people use it,
because they're more likely also to show it. Whereas, in leadership teams, in larger professional organizations, business communities, etc., there might be a kind of a thought that comes up or something like that. I don't quite like that. And then it can be dismissed. And that's where that cognitive load builds until we burst or explode or hand in our notice or do something.
Absolutely.
Because we haven't paid attention to our own senses, because we don't actually know how the brains that are walking around, we actually work. We don't understand how we work as human beings. And I think increasingly I'd value as our position as humans probably more than ever, because it's kind of a little bit under that dehumanizations makes me want to protect. We are important.
Oh, goodness, yes.
People are so important as human beings, So those are the things that I suppose.
Well, on those
keep me up at night.
On that very deep note, I need to wrap up. Thank you so much for talking to me, Anne. And before we finish, remind me how people can find you on your website, on your socials.
Yes, thank you, Lucy. Let me just say, I've just so enjoyed the chat, and as you can probably see, I'm a bit passionate about some of these things, but I love the journey with you, and thank you very much for the opportunity. You can find me at my website, ann-wilkinson.co.uk. You can find me on LinkedIn and Wilkinson Coach. Those are probably the two best places to find
Brilliant.
me. Right,
We'll
so
stick
thanks
it
for
in
the
the notes as well.
opportunity. Yeah,
Thank you so
brilliant.
much.
Thanks,
It's
Lucy.
been great. Thank you for
I'll see you
listening.
soon. Thank
I'm
you.
Lucy. I'm Lucy from Inclusive Change, and you've been listening to Building the Future of Work. We're starting conversations, so keep that conversation going.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you for tuning in to Start the Conversation. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and remember, conversations like these help us make a difference, one discussion at a time. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover, or if you'd like to be featured on the show, don't hesitate to reach out. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, I'm Lucy. Take care.